Welcome to another edition of the Dental Today podcast. Thank you for stopping by. This is brought to you by labmediatv. My name is Hezekiah Morales, and here we go. Remember to follow us on social media at labmediatv.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Dental Today podcast. We are joined by a special guest. He has been in the dental industry for over 15 years. He's a dental ceramist. We are very excited, all the way from Colorado, Broomfield, Colorado, Miss Sarah Williamson. Sarah, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
It's a pleasure to have you here. A couple of weeks ago, we were having a conversation with Bart Katherine. He's out here in Winter Springs, Florida, and very, very good friend of ours. Special individual, wonderful person, and a great professional as well. And he said, you know what, you've got to speak to Sarah. And I said, who is Sarah? I haven't had the privilege yet. So I am very excited to have you on, Sarah. And you are all the way from Colorado, so you didn't have to worry about the hurricane that we did. But how's everything going on in Colorado?
Oh, it's going great. The weather's awesome. Fall is right around the corner. It's pretty beautiful.
Awesome. And so you are a ceramist. I do see here you've taken a boatload of courses. You've trained with a lot of great people. Tell me a little bit about your journey. We're talking about over 15 years. You start this when you were in college, high school. How did it all begin for you?
Yeah, I wanted to be an art teacher originally, or a graphic designer. I wasn't really sure yet. I wanted to do something in the art field. So I started taking general education at Kirkwood Community College, because I'm from the Cedar Rapids area. And I had a friend in the dental assisting program. And she's like, I had a year of school almost complete, just taking general education courses. And she's like, hey, have you heard of dental lab technology? I think it's something that you'd really like. So Kirkwood had a 2-year program there. So I started researching it, and I was like, yes, this sounds like exactly what I want to do. So I got in the program that next year, did the 2 years there, got hired right away at a smaller dental lab in Cedar Rapids. It was only 12 people back then. I think today there's over 40 people in the lab. But it was really great. The owner, Mike Eastman, he taught me a lot of the ceramics, because you come out of dental lab school and you really don't know much. You kind of know a little bit of everything, but you don't have a whole lot of hand skills yet. So I was very fortunate to work with him for 2 years and learn a lot in the ceramic department. But I always had this want to be in-house and work in the dental office. Just from visiting, some different labs when I was in school. And I had a friend that worked in an office, for a prosthodontist, and they had just gotten a lab like the year before, and they were looking for somebody. So I jumped at that opportunity and got hired in-house just 2 years after school. So let's see here. It was one guy at the lab, and that was John Verbacek. And he was mainly doing same-day CEREC crowns, some gold crowns. And when they hired me, we decided to do everything. The doctors were sending everything out to a different lab. So when they hired me, we started doing veneers, all the crown and bridge work, PFMs. They just sent out all the removable. So I was there for 12 years. It was a prosthodontist and 2 general dentists in that office. We had probably 25 employees. It was a large office. But all the dentists had 2 assistants, and then we had lots of hygiene. It was a great experience. I loved it. I loved working in-house. I loved meeting the patient, being able to communicate with the doctors every day, having my hands on every case that went through the lab. The quality was really nice.
And allow me to interject here and ask you the following. Did you have an opportunity to actually see your work in mouth?
Oh, yeah, all the time. It was great. So, I took a lot of custom shades. I was able to see my work after it was inserted, before the doctor submitted it. If I had to adjust anything, I got to see it after it was submitted just to see, how it looked in the mouth. So it was, it's just funny because obviously my work, right, 2 years out of school wasn't as good as it is now. But I don't know, it's just, it's nice to see all your work in the mouth. You learn from it, you get to make changes. But sometimes, you see it on the model and it looks great, and then you see it in the mouth and you're like, wait, I would change this, this, and this. But the patient and the doctor are happy, and that's what matters,
Wow. That's a very interesting opportunity that you had, because I've heard from certain dental technicians that they do a lot of work. They put it in, obviously, as you know, dental technicians put in a lot of work. They invest themselves in what they're doing, but not a lot of them have the opportunity to actually see it in the patient and actually see it create a difference in this person's smile and ultimately in their health. So that's an amazing thing. So you said that you worked 12 years at this location. So that's 90%, 95% of your whole career. Did you ever work in any other setting outside of the 2 years that you worked under this gentleman in the 12 years? No high production lab?
No, so while I was there for the 12 years, after I left, I'm on my third lab now in the last year. So that's the interesting part. Let me back up a minute, because working in-house was great. And I know that my lab partner, John, and I just had, we worked so well together. And now that I've been out of that situation, I value it so much more, because we did work so well together, and he did most of the crown and bridge work. I did all the ceramic work. It helped with our production, it helped with our workflow. We did a lot of same-day CEREC crowns, but we also did hand wax, a lot of PFMs, a lot of Emax press crowns. But I was wanting more. I felt like as a ceramist, I felt like I was just lacking some education, even though I go to courses all the time, and I can, the doctors would send me to hands-on courses anytime I wanted to. I just wanted to be in an environment where I could grow and learn from other dental ceramists. I also wanted to learn more on the digital side. So although that we did have the CEREC in-lab and the doctor's unit, we just, with only 2 people in the lab, we just didn't have time to fully grasp the digital side of things. And we were just doing things the analog way, even though it was all perfect and fit great. I just wanted to learn. I don't want to get lost in the times, with the digital. I also had gone through some personal things at that time where it was a time in my life where I could make the decision to move anywhere. I've always wanted to move to Colorado. So I made the jump. My house was sold. I'm like, you know what? This is the time to go. So I looked for jobs in Colorado, just in the Boulder area, Denver area, because that's what I'm familiar with. And I had 2 opportunities, and I decided to take one at a smaller lab. It was, I thought it was, high end, lots of, everything was done digital. They had no waxers in the lab. So that's why I left. Yeah. So I left the practice of 12 years and way out of my comfort zone, and came out here. And worked in a smaller lab. Wow. And I, honestly, in 2 weeks, I knew it wasn't a fit for me, which was unfortunate, because, leaving all your friends and family and moving to another state all by yourself is scary enough. And then you get into a situation where your job isn't exactly what you were hoping for. It was a tough. But I stayed at this lab for 6 months. And what I did learn, so I thought I was going to do some digital and some ceramics, and I did, but they really needed me in the ceramic department more. But this lab also needed a lot of help. They had a lot of full zirconia crowns that just need to be stained and glazed, a lot of posterior crowns that just need to be layered. And for me, that was a step back. I wanted more. I wanted to learn the full arch cases. I just thought it was going to be a little bit more progressive. So immediately I was kind of looking out in the area because, you know, I signed the year lease in Colorado and I was going to stick this whole year out, you know. And so that's when I got the opportunity for a larger production lab to go work with them in their ceramic department. And I thought it was just going to be good for me to get out of the environment that I was in to move on to that one. So that's why I did that. So working in a large production lab was very different for me. You know, nothing wrong with large production labs, but for me, you know, I'm not used to being micromanaged. And just to sit in one department and, you know, you just get your 8 cases a day and that's what you do for the day, with really no control over the frameworks, no control over the design. You get in the ceramic department and then you just have to make the best product that you can with what you're given. That was difficult for me. I want to be part of the whole picture. I want to be able to communicate with the doctor. Another thing I thought was kind of funny, you know, I've never gotten a 6-unit anterior case to do without a pre-op model. And there's lots of doctors out there, I guess, that do not send pre-op models. Oh, and they don't want a diagnostic wax up. It's just like, here's the preps, make me some crowns. That was very interesting to me and very frustrating, you know. So that was something that I had to get used to. But I feel like I'm going all over the place here, so I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
What I did like about working in the production lab. Okay, good. When I was working at the larger production lab, I did get to spend the time though layering my crowns, and I did some really good work there. They had a custom department where, you know, we did custom shades and we did all, you know, internal layering. But I never got to see those cases in the mouth either. So in my eyes, they look good, but you know, if they didn't come back, then let's just say they look good. But you know, I learned, you know, my speed isn't quite as fast as other lab technicians that work in the production field. You know, I take my time on every case. I make sure that everything is done the way that I want it done. I sit and I almost overthink some of the cases because I need to know all the information. So it was really hard for me to, on a daily basis, I kind of struggled because it's just hard for me to, again, not have all the information that I needed. So it's frustrating. And, you know, obviously I knew it wasn't a good fit for me. Although, you know, the people there were great to work with. I met a lot of nice people. But I was just thinking like, well, you know, my lease is almost up. I'll just keep at my apartment. So I'll just keep working here until I find something else. But there really was nothing else in Colorado. I was looking, there's a lot of larger production labs here. And then there's a lot of small, like, small labs in people's homes. So I just didn't really have a lot of options here. So I was thinking about packing my bags and just like putting all my stuff in storage and then going somewhere else for a while because I had other opportunities in other states. I wasn't not ready to leave Colorado though. So luckily, just like literally within less than a month when my lease was up, this job came available. It was posted on Indeed that this Denver Restorative Dentistry was looking for a lab technician to come into their in-house lab. So I jumped on that right away. I was like, I sent my resume right away. I called, I emailed, I'm like, please pick me. I thought that I was going to like working in the lab, but again, I love being in-house and I love working for prosthodontists. They're so detailed. They care. These doctors here care so much about the patient and the best outcome for the patient. Unfortunately, I think there's some doctors out there that they want an in-house lab because they want to save lab costs. And that is not the reason. That is not the reason to have your own lab. And if you want a good technician, you're going to have to pay them, first of all. Which I do find hard to negotiate for myself. I'm learning that yet. Because I find that it's hard to say like what I'm worth, you know, and not all technicians are created equal. it's another reason I like that over the last year, I've kind of seen what I'm up against out here. You know, I don't do my ramus but I realize that I'm not that bad. Let me just say that. Like, I realize that I actually do have some talent, you know, and I know quality work, and I know fit and function. You know, I always strive for better aesthetics, always, and that's like my main goal. That's my. I think my entire career is always going to be focused on that. You know, I don't think you ever get to a point where you're just like, oh yes, like I know, you know, I'm the best. This is the best that I can ever be, you know? So.
Very interesting. Wow, that's certainly. I did not have a notepad next to me, or I don't have a notepad next to me to jot down some of the things I wanted to ask you. But I'll start by this. So again, your last, let's say 16 to 12 months, right? Or 12 to 16 months rather, have been quite interesting. And I asked you before if you had worked in a high production lab, and that's where you began to share the information there. And I can definitely perceive the frustration, right, in working with a doctor and being able to get that information, all the information that you're used to getting, and then all of a sudden the switch is turned off and the information is not there anymore. and then you're left with a lot of question marks and everything. And that just leads me to consider how interesting the different perspectives from different dental technicians in their experiences are. Again, you're used to having more information to be able to render a high quality product, yet you experience in the high pace, high production lab that you were expected to give or render a particular outcome without possibly all the information or the details that you were used to. So my question to you, I believe would be more along the lines of, what would you tell dental technicians, or what would your advice be to dental technicians that are probably working in a high production lab and possibly thought about moving into an in-house lab, working with prosthodontists and working with dentists, being able to ask them the questions? What would your advice be? 12 years of experience, I think you have a few pointers there.
Well, working in-house isn't for everyone. It is high stress, I think. You know, it has to be, if you're willing to put in the work and you have good work ethic, if you're able to self-manage yourself, if you're able to talk to patients, you know, in-house would be for you, or even a smaller lab where you all interact together and work together as a team. You just kind of know that you're going to put in a lot of extra work. It's a lot more effort. You know, the larger production labs, you get to punch in, punch out, you take your normal breaks. You know, you're not working on the weekends trying to get a case done because you have people to back you up. You have managers that don't want you working overtime. You just need to know that if you're willing to put in the work and the time and the effort, go for it.
It's definitely something in the details that you're pointing out. That's very, very interesting. I've had conversations with certain dental technicians here on the show and outside of the show, and they've shared how their perspective, and they couldn't necessarily work under those conditions, and they rather be away because you mentioned that you worked in a lab where you weren't used to being micromanaged. But I've also heard that some dental technicians feel that way working in an in-house lab. What is your perspective on that?
Well, I guess I don't know, because I really don't know how to answer that, because I guess the doctors that I've worked with in my experience, are not micromanaging. I mean, you know, they can be as involved or uninvolved as they want with the case. I think from my experience, you know, the doctor gets excited to see some, you know, how a case is progressing, making sure that if I have any questions that it's answered. They're not too worried about what process I'm in, as long as I have it done on time. You know, you don't ever want to have to reschedule a patient. That's really the main thing.
Very interesting. And I see here you've done classes with a good friend from Chicago now, Mr. Oliver Trick and Stefan Pisha and many of these people. And it's interesting that you took a course with Bart Katherine. How was that course?
Well, I actually listened to one of his lectures. I think it was his first time lecturing for Dentsply Sirona, and it was at the well, okay, so no, I met him at Chicago at the Dentsply Sirona, like after party. Mm-hmm. I met him in person there, but we were friends on social media. I've met Jay Black multiple times at different CEREC meetings. So then when Bart started coming in the picture, you know, of course I knew who he was because Jay, you know, had started to post some of his work. So I knew of Bart's name. I liked all of his work. So that's kind of how we became acquaintances. And then I met him in person in Chicago for the first time. But he had reached out to me on social media, Facebook messaged me because I had said that I went to the Stefan Pisha course, and he wanted to know what I thought of it. You know, just kind of my insight on it, which it was an awesome course. And that was the first course I've ever had to pay for myself too. And that was an expensive course, but it was well worth it. But so I met Bart in Chicago, and then I met him at the InLab Summit here in Denver this year. And so I got to listen to him speak, and I have not got to be a part of like a hands-on course with him yet, but hopefully someday in the future.
So. For sure. He was on the show a while back, and one of his biggest things is functionality, occlusion. And that's a wonderful thing to always be able to go back to, because again, you were doing a lot more or all analog, correct? And
yeah.
And so that's what he does a lot. But let me ask you this: you did mention your transition, your desire to transition, or not transition, but begin to get involved a lot more into the digital aspect of the industry. How's that going for you? Have you taken any courses? Are you doing any digital work right now?
Yeah. I gotta tell you, you know, so back home, I designed a lot of just single units and some bridges, you know, nothing really more than that. And then coming out here, working at the first lab I came out here, I got to learn 3-shape. So back home, it was just CEREC. And I moved out here, first lab was 3-shape. So in this lab, they designed all their own custom abutments. I got to learn a lot on that. But again, I didn't get totally engulfed in it, okay? They needed me more on the ceramic side at that lab. So I didn't get involved as much as I wanted to. And then when I went to the larger production lab, I didn't get to do anything with the digital section and department. And I struggle as a ceramist because, you know, having other people design your work digitally and then you get it and it's not contoured the way you want it, things aren't fitting the way you want it, it makes you very frustrated with digital dentistry, you know, because you want things to fit the way that they do when you hand wax it. And I think there's still a lot of people out there struggling to get that together, you know, and for everything to fit and function exactly the way that you want it. You're like, why didn't this just copy mill what I just had? But with that being said, coming now here to this office, they have zircons on. So again, this is another whole new digital setup that I got to learn. Which they've been wanting to train. I've only been here for a couple months now. They've been wanting to train me more on the zircons on system, but I have been really busy with the ceramic aspect of it and some of the kind of bridge work. Just, you know, so we still have to, we're milling wax and then we're pressing it. So I still have to do that. But the Zircons-On makes beautiful restorations, and we have a really good digital guy here that's scanning the cases in and designing. They want me to learn more so that I can, help out if he has other things to do, or if he's gone, then I can jump on the computer without a problem. But we have a full-time denture technician here, so he'll do a denture setup. They'll put it in the mouth for a temporary, and then make sure that the patient likes it, and then we'll do a copy mill on that, and then we'll do the other ceramist here, Lou. He's taught me how he does his pink porcelain, and so I've kind of taken what I've learned in the Stefan Picha course, and then what Lou's taught me, and kind of trying to put them together. I still have I'm on my third ceramic material in the last year too, so that's a whole other thing. We have to learn different materials. I used Vita porcelain in Emax Stram for almost 12 years. So now I'm using Zircon Ice, and I'm still using Emax Stram. That's one thing that's been consistent in the for however many years is the Ceram porcelain. But so I'm learning more in the digital. There's a lot more digital here at this office than I haven't been around yet in my career. So it's going really good.
And allow me to ask you this in regards to the designer. You said that you have a very, very good designer there that's been working with you. Has he ever laid on porcelain? Has he ever worked with ceramics, or he's strictly a computer digital guy?
No, he's strictly the digital guy. And for now, he wants to learn ceramics, and we eventually want to teach him, the ceramic part of it. But, even though we're a high quality, smaller lab here, we also need to be productive. And right now, it's just working where he's scanning and designing. Lou and I, we're trying to get it so that we can check all the designs before they're milled, because he doesn't know contour like we know contour. He does a really good job with what he's given, but we also work together, and I think that's a big part. The ceramists still need to check the contour. I mean, back home in the lab I worked at in-house, my coworker John, he had 18 more years of experience than me, and he knew how to do everything in the lab, but he just did the waxing and the metal finishing and cap, because that's what worked well for our workflow. But he had let me check all his wax ups for pressing. It's a partner thing, I don't think ever, just to have a digital person design something, or Crown & Bridge lab technician design something without checking with the ceramist, just so you're all on the same page.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you bring that up. And you said that he is looking forward to learning, and you folks are looking forward to teaching him as well. With one of the conversations that we were having with Bart was that he was giving a course, and out of the people that were there on the course, I believe only 2 or 3 had ever laid porcelain. The rest of them were all digital. And so I find that there are certain challenges that cannot be overcome if the foundation of the analog, the old school work, that artistic side where you really get into the actual shape of what you're doing in your hand, and the function of it is it's a very interesting conversation to be had. And I'm finding that I was recently speaking to a gentleman here that does some design work. He's I think like 22, 23 years old, young man, but he's never held ceramic in his hands. So I think it's one of those conversations where all these guys have to, in my opinion, they have to take a couple courses and try it every now and then, so their work can go to the next level. Otherwise, then we find this there is a lack of information possibly may be transpiring there. So what is I know you're in a moment of transition. There's a lot of things going on here, but what do you see in your near future? Any courses that you're going to be attending? Where will we be seeing you?
Yes. There's a lot. The sky's the limit, so I'm super excited because I have 3 young prosthodontists in this office right now, and they're trying to build this awesome lab, and they're doing a good job so far. We're trying to work out some kinks right now. we hope that, eventually we can get some outside accounts, just for some of the larger cases, because we do a really good job on the full arch. All on 4 cases are turning out really nice. I'm excited to get our workflow going a little bit better so that we can take cases from other dentists in the area. I'm just going to continue to try to get better and better at my layering. Right now I'm going to go to the In-Lab Marketing Summit coming up in a couple weeks in North Carolina. That's more for, me just to do a little bit more networking. I do want to learn more on the marketing side and the business side so I can help the dentists grow their office and lab. And then I want to learn, I get to learn more about the Prime Scan, because we have the OmniCam here right now. They're not really utilizing it as much as they could be. And that's one thing that I've been doing since I've been here, is trying to get them to use that more. We did do, like, a patient came in, they only had like a day. We did a same day smile, just the front 4 teeth, but it was like a Friday morning. And that was really fun. I love that kind of stuff. I love just like, I kind of like the pressure of getting things done. And when they turn out great, I'm just like, yes, this is awesome. But so hopefully we get the Prime Scan in here and we can start doing, getting digital dentures in here. Because right now our denture technician, Dario, he's awesome. He does everything by hand, analog way, and it's great. Wow. But clearly digital dentures is the thing right now, and we will be getting into that. And Zircon's on, I think, has come out with the modules and pucks and everything for digital dentures. So that's the route we're going to go with that. Yuki Mama is coming to Denver area. I've seen his work on Instagram, and he spoke for Ivoclar in Chicago. So I think Lou and I are going to go to his hands-on course coming up in October. It's local, and I just think that you can never have enough hands-on courses. So I'm excited for that.
That's exciting to hear.
Yeah.
So we want to be able to follow you. We want our listeners to be able to follow you. What's your tag on Instagram, on Facebook? How can we find Sarah Williamson?
Okay, well, for now, Facebook, Sarah Williamson. That's who I am on Facebook. Instagram, I'm working on that page. I really haven't posted anything in a couple of years, and it hasn't been anything dental related. So my goal personally now, working in-house and having, one of the doctors is really good at dental photography. So I will be posting my work and our work, and I'm excited. It's intimidating, and I'm a little scared, putting my stuff out there, but it's exciting to see. Ultimately, I love the before and after photos of the patients, so hopefully I'll be getting those out soon.
That's going to be very exciting. One of the things that one of our good friends, Elvin Santos, who was sharing with me, was the fact that sharing his work on social media was one of the catalysts that brought forth his growth and his exponential growth, because he was able to go back and forth with other colleagues in other parts of the world where they would point something out and he would improve his work based on that. So I am excited. I am sure our listeners are also going to be excited to follow you, hopefully on the Instagram account as well, because that's a little easier to follow than Facebook when it comes to the pictures. So we are looking forward to follow you, ladies and gentlemen. We will be posting Sarah's information in the description, whether you're watching on YouTube, on Facebook, whether you're watching this on Instagram, whatever it is, Sarah's information is going to be in the description. Sarah, it's been a pleasure having you. I hope to see you hopefully in Chicago. Other than that, I'm going to be doing some local traveling. I'm not going to be traveling anywhere else. But in Chicago in February, I'm looking forward to meeting you in person. And thank you for coming on.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen.
So much. Nice to meet you.
Likewise. Ladies and gentlemen, Sarah Williamson, we will see you soon.